नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशितारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा. So thank you all very much for joining today's session. We've been discussing from the 8th verse of Manasiksha. So today, Krishna willing, will complete this 8th verse, and maybe we may start the 9th verse also. Let's see, wait and watch. So before we were discussing the commentary by Srila Bhaktivigyan Goswami Maharaj of this 8th verse. So before we start that, we take this discussion forward, I'll request Radha Pramod Prabhu to do a recap of what we have seen till now, and then we will take it forward from there. Over to you, Prabhu. Thank you. Radha Pramod Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Prabhu, are you there? Can you unmute and let me know if you are there or not? Others are able to hear me, right? Okay. I think yes and himself. Radha Pramod Prabhu, you are going to start.
You're able to hear me?
Now we are able to hear.
You are able to hear me, bro?
Yes, Prabhu, now we are able to hear you.
Yes. I'm just sharing the screen, bro. Just a minute. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Hare Krishna. So we are discussing Manasiksha, verse number 8, a commentary by Srila Sachinandan Maharaj and Bhaktivigyan Maharaj, both we are having. So Sachinandan Maharaj says that all the obstacles can be summarized with one word, dushtatvam or wickedness. And he says that there are two solutions to the heart. One is utter humility and second one is bhakti. He says like humility is very important. Then he gives the analogy as a fruit need a protective skin so that it will not get germs or some contamination or some dirt or anything. Similarly, a devotee needs humility, otherwise their so-called devotion becomes corrupt, and he will be having all this contamination that is coming to him. So that is very important. And of all the manifestation of wickedness, the worst of all is fault finding. And Vaishnava Ninda erases everything, and it uproots our bhakti. Then he gives 7 prescriptions are given how to avoid it. He says, be always observed in your bhajan and sadhana. Speak only about sadhana and the Lord. Speak only about beneficial things. Walk on the road with your head lowered, palm joined with and show respect to everyone. Never criticize others. Know that everyone is superior to you. If someone comes to you and criticizes someone else, say, oh, I have something urgent to do, and leave the place immediately. So these are the precautions he gives that we should do and remain humble. Then he says that where can we find the association which removes all dirt from our heart? He says worshipping Sri Giriraj, and in such a way that he should be very pleased. And Maharaj says that when we are doing, Giriraj will personally come and see what is there in our heart and is trying to fulfill. And then he says by worshipping Govardhan, we can enter into camp of Srimati Radharani. And Raghunath Das Goswami also says that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by offering him Govardhan Shila and Kunjamala, he has given shelter of Govardhan and also given the shelter at the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani. And he says if we want to experience Krishna with all his qualities, we can only do so by worshipping him through Srimati Radharani. Because like he gives the example of a bee. Bee can only collect the honey. From the flowers, we cannot take honey. We need help of a bee. Similarly, we cannot get the nectar directly of Krishna. We need to go through Srimati Radharani because she can extract all the good qualities of Krishna. And he says, turn to Giriraj, and Giriraj will turn us to Radharani. So that is the solution. And Srimati Radharani, like is the bee, like topmost devotee of Krishna, who draws all Krishna's honey as well as his divine qualities that will flood our heart when we become her servant. And what is the process of becoming her servant? The process of becoming servant of Radharani is so sublime that is well kept secret of our Sampradaya, and it has to be kept confidential because we can make so many mistakes. And and the processes we should go through Gauranga Mahaprabhu, who is combined form of Sri Radha and Krishna. We should forget all our self-identification as an enjoyer. We should be humble, be realistic, and the changing of heart will happen in the association with a person, food, object, environment, and literature. And by that higher associate with high things, and our consciousness will be higher. And associate with affection, not with computer. Maharaj says it has everything. It's a mind without consciousness. And associate with affection with proper things, and they will transform you. So this is the commentary by Sachinandan Maharaj. Then we have His Holiness Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj. He says there are many things Maharaj was saying. Few things I have summarized. He says, Raghunath Das Goswami says that mercy will deliver me from my wicked nature. We see that there is never an end to our anarthas because of perverted nature, because of which we are caught up in these three modes of material nature. These modes of material nature always make us get affected by it. So that's how we'll be affected. And then he says the mood of bhakti is even at the level of prema. Yeah, this is two things Maharaj saying, that what happens if a person has this mood of bhakti, even at the level of prema, he says, I'm still a hypocrite. And the nature of prema is prema never, it is not known even if it appears in one's heart. He gives the example of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who says, I don't have any love for Krishna, I'm a hypocrite. That's what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu feels. And Maharaj says, if someone says, I have prema, we should flee from that person because he not only don't have prema, but is having no consciousness also. Is not has no conscience. And he gives example of Gorgon Maharaj. One disciple goes to him and cries and says, how is there any possibility I get prema? Maharaj says, even if you get, you will not know it. So this is what Maharaj is telling. And he says that when we develop this love, we will be satisfied, but will not feel satiated and feel spiritual instability, in the sense that we feel that I don't actually have anything. I want more and more. Even though the heart is satisfied, he feels there's more and more need. Now here two things Raghunath Das Goswami is explaining, both highest platform and the state of a mind of a devotee still on the path. So both of them, the person at the level of prema, he is feeling I am a hypocrite, and at the person who is still on the path, he also actually has this hypocrisy. In one is both of them are saying I have hypocrisy, but one at the level of prema and one at the level of sadhana. And for him, the person who is at the level on the path, it seems impossible to eradicate our that perverted nature, especially person at the level of is in the sadhana level. So then Chaitanya Charitamrita describes a devotee sometimes becomes hopeless. But Raghunath Das Goswami says, no, no, no. There are still we have hope because Krishna mercy excels everything. And three things: His mercy is there, and he says, and there he prays and asks, okay, and he says he can give me not just prema but ujjvala prema. Raghunath Das Goswami says, and also he says he can give the opportunity to serve Srimati Radharani. So even though our perverted nature is there and we are so hopeless because of all these things, and again and again Maharaj says, one anartha goes and another will come. So we become completely hopeless. But even in that state also, uh, there is Krishna's mercy is so great, so we can have hope. That's the point it is mentioned. And then he says, it will happen if I am in Vrindavan and my mind worship Giridhari. So this is what Raghunath Goswami is saying, that all the problems will be solved if we worship the generals of the army of devotees. But there was a problem for Raghunath Das Goswami because all the Goswamis they already left to the spiritual world. So he didn't had any association. That's why he says, but there were no more in Vrindavan. All the great generals, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, they all left. So Raghunath Das Goswami says, yes, now I should take shelter of Govardhan Shila and Srimati Radharani. And then he says that then how we should worship the Lord. The deity is non-different from Lord. So our spiritual master gives us permission to worship deity, which is supposed to be done in a special mode. So this is what Maharaj explains this in very detailed way. This is deities are non-different from Krishna himself. Then if we understand this, then we'll have kakva within our heart. Means that humility will come. That, oh, I am hypocrite. So this type of humility feeling will come. And he gives the story of Sakshi Gopal. There is this Pratima Nahitumi Sakshat Rajendra. And also he quotes from Padma Puran, Archa Vishnu Shiladi, Guru Naramati. So this hellish consciousness, if a person he thinks that Archa Vishnu Shiladi, Guru Naramati, says the deity is just a stone, this is hellish consciousness. Hellish consciousness is material consciousness. That means the person is completely absorbed in the materialistic mentality. Then he gives there are so many instructions that are given by Jiva Goswami from Bhakti Sandarbha. So there are few things which are mentioned. Jiva Goswami says, people who truly worship Krishna do not see the difference between Archa and Krishna himself. This is the first thing he says. And Maharaj further writes that God is almighty and is capable of associating with us through any form. So we should know that Lord can come in any form. That is his potency is there. And he will personally associate with us through his deity form if we are in the right state of consciousness. And then he says that most of the philosophers are more or less contaminated by Mayavada. Even many Vaishnava Sampradayas also, they also are don't have that much faith on the deities. And then says the very moment a deity is installed according to all the principles of Prancharatra, Krishna comes there in person. And this all Jiva Goswami says, worshipping a deity in a way to get rid of all our problems. So he says, if you have any problem, you just have to worship the deities. There is no need to have any other methods. This method is sufficient. And he says, we don't need anger. So people say, oh, I need to be angry because I had to handle things in the material world outside people. But Jiva says, no, no need of anger to associate with Krishna, because anger destroys this association. And then he says how our mind is very flickering. Whatever we do, mind will say something else is better. So when we worship deities, these two things will be gone. One is our flickering mind, it will be stable. So he says worshipping deity delivers people of two things. If they worship deity, deity keeps us within limits. If we really understand this is Krishna himself, and we invite deity at our home, we connect with deities to remove our problems, and we worship deity, place all our thoughts towards his lotus feet. This deity will come to us at the moment of death. So these are the instructions which are given by Jiva Swami and Bhakti Siddhanta. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, bro. Thank you very much. Very nice summary of what we saw last week. So today we'll continue our discussion and hopefully complete this verse today, and time permits, we may start the next verse also. So we will just read the words together, and then I will pause to see if there are any quick comments, discussion points, questions from last week, and whatever Prabhuji has summarized this week today. So, but first we will chant the words together and see the meaning, and then we will see if there are any discussion points. Yata dushtatvam me davayati shadasyapi kripaya yatamatkum premamritam dadatyu yata shri gandharva bhajana vidaye prerayati ma tata goshte kakva giridharamihatvam bhajamana. So here the question is, for most of the anarthas that have been gross or subtle, that have been mentioned by Srila Raghunath Das Goswami here, the solution that was given to overcome these anarthas was association of devotees, service to exalted devotees. Now the question is, what if such an association is not available? What if such an association is not available? So he says, in such a case, then one can depend on the mercy of Krishna. Not that one feels that, oh, I don't need the association of devotees, I don't need the mercy of devotees, I can directly depend on the mercy of Krishna. That is a very offensive attitude. But if for whatever reasons the association of exalted devotees is not available, then what do we do? So in that case, we depend on the mercy of Krishna. So he says the mercy of Krishna bestows three things. He says that even though I am a cheater, I have all kinds of wickedness within my heart. So wickedness, there is a question in the chat box. What are some practical examples of wickedness in heart? Cheating propensity, hypocrisy, lust, anger, envy, greed, illusion, pride. Basically, here wickedness includes all the anarthas which have been described here by Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. So he is telling that, okay, for all the anarthas, the solution that was given was association of devotees. Now I see that I have lot of these anarthas, but I don't have association of devotees. What do I do? So he says that, okay, in that case, that is genuinely the case, then you can depend on the mercy of Krishna, mercy of the deities. That's how Shri Vigyan Goswami Maharaj is describing here. The deities are there, depend on the deity's mercy. Deity's mercy will come to the extent we see them as being non-different from Krishna. That was the essence of what he was telling. Shatasyapi, even though I am a wicked person, Kripaya, Yata Kripaya, the Lord's mercy does three things. Me dushvam davayati. That mercy can drive away my wicked nature. And then he says, Ujvalam premamritam matyam dadati. Not only will Krishna's mercy drive away the wickedness from my heart, but it can also give me the glowing nectar of divine love. Ujvalam premamritam mukyam dadati. And then the third thing he says, Shri Gandharva Bhajana Vidaye Mam Prerayat. Not only that Krishna's mercy can inspire within my heart the desire and the process of serving Srimati Radharani. So all these things which normally come by proper inspiring association of devotees can actually come by the mercy of Krishna also if we have the right mood. And what is that right mood? Kakwa. Kakwa means pleading words. Kakwa tvam bhaja giridaram iha ghosh. With pleading words, one should worship Sri Giridhari here in Vrindavan. So that's what he says. So this line indicates one thing. One is the mood, which is the mood of humility, which he says this is the symptom of deception-free devotion, is that one feels completely hopeless and dependent on the mercy. That is the symptom of simple-hearted, deception-free, guileless devotion. The more one thinks that I am not dependent on the mercy of devotees, Krishna, Guru, etc., to that extent our devotion is filled with deception. Because the reality is such that we get devotion, we get the seed of devotion purely by mercy, and we progress so by mercy only. So if we are not able to recognize it, then the cause is our deception. So he says the first thing is kakwa. We should plead, beg with humility, and with that, in that mode, one should worship Giridhari. And Srila Sachinandan Maharaj says the word Giridhari is used because all good fortune we join Radharani's camp if we worship Giriraj. And Giriraj can understand what is there in our heart, and he will follow our heart and bestow whatever our heart is desiring for. And in Goshte, here in Vrindavan, indicates the potency of the Dham. Any act of devotion or any prayers, when offered in the Dham, especially in a Dham like Vrindavan, why say Dham like Vrindavan? In Vrindavan, because Vrindavan is special. Vrindavan is not any other Dham. For us, at least for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Just like for the Sri Vaishnavas, it is Sri Rangam. For the Madhvites, it might be Udupi. Similarly, for us Gaudiya Vaishnavas, it is Vrindavan. Because Vrindavanam parityajya padam ekam na gacchati. Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. He's always there in Vrindavan. So that's what he says, that what if in the case that when association of devotees is not available, if our heart is still filled with lot of anarthas, then we can depend on the mercy of Krishna, and that mercy of Krishna can give us these three benefits. But in order to access that mercy, we need the mood of humility, and we have to worship Krishna, especially the form of Giridhari in Vrindavan. So then the mercy flows really fast. And in this context, we discussed, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's commentary, where he discussed the symptom of deception-free devotion we saw, and then the mood of, how properly to offer such prayers. He quoted from Sri Ganva Samprarthanashtakam from the Stavamala of Srila Rupa Goswami. We saw that. And then he spoke about cheating and deception. What is that wickedness? He said cheating and deception is the wickedness that he is talking about. So he says that when souls take shelter of ignorance and illusion, they at once becomes deceitful, falsely proud, like that, and they are consumed by dishonest activities, hypocritical activities, like that. So, and such people go away from Krishna. But if such people take complete shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His holy name, then they receive the mercy of Krishna. And then he spoke about what is this first benefit of begging for mercy. When Krishna's mercy comes, the first thing that happens is, of course, cheating is destroyed, the cheating propensity is gone. Then Ujjvala Premamritam Mahyam Dadati. One receives the radiant love, nectar of love for Krishna, and especially in the mood of Madhurya Rasa. And he gives some examples from, so he gives some quotations from Srila Rupa Goswami's Ujjvala Neelamani, and indicating what is this Madhurya Rasa and what are the various forms in which it manifests in the form of Sattvika Bhav, Sanchari Bhav, Anubhavas, like that. And then, and then he says that how one can reach that stage by properly first following Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, and by that Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti one reaches the stage of Raganuga Sadhana, and then gradually one receives the by intense prayer to Srimati Radharani, one can attain the mercy of Srimati Radharani when one reaches the stage of Raganuga, like that. And then, and third benefit of accessing Krishna's mercy is Shri Gandharva Bhajana Vidaye Mam Prerayati. How Krishna's mercy inspires and gives guidance as to how one can worship Srimati Radharani in Vrindavan. And then he discusses how does one get Srimati Radharani's mercy, by hearing in proper krama the bhakti literatures. Then gradually one when one hears about the eternal loving service of the Brajavasis in Vrindavan, then a greed may arise within the heart, and then one with great sincerity begs and prays for that sentiment of the Brajavasis. Then gradually one gets the mercy, one gets that ruchi and loba, like that. And so he says that only by the mercy of the Sakhis can one be eligible to serve the divine couple. And we saw that in our Sampradaya, we get the mercy of the Sakhis by their writings. The Manjaris and the Sakhis, they are the ones who have written all these literatures. So their writings are filled with their mood and that particular revelation which can awaken that mood. So Bhagavatam cannot necessarily invoke the bhav, but when Bhagavatam's explanation is studied through the writings of the Manjaris and the Sakhis who have come in the Sampradaya of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then their writings are filled with that particular mood. And when we try to access Srimad Bhagavatam through their writings, then we can develop that mood. So then by getting the mercy of a Sakhi, one will gradually obtain the mercy of Srimati Radharani, like that. So then He says that, but as long as one maintains a sense of mental masculinity, which means the enjoyer mentality, then he's ineligible. Otherwise, whether one is a male or female, one can definitely aspire for this particular like that. And then we saw Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Manasiksha Ba, the poetic rendition of this commentary. And then, as Radha Pramod Prabhu summarized Srila Sachinandan Maharaj's commentary and Srila Bhakti Vigyan Goswami Maharaj's commentary till what we have seen till now. We saw this. I don't want to go into it again because he has already nicely summarized it. He spoke about importance of deity worship also. Uh, it is important for us to understand that we always have a chance to receive Krishna's mercy, and that comes in the form of the opportunity to worship the deities of the Lord. Um, and then he spoke about Sakshi Gopal's story briefly. Uh, so, like, and okay, yeah, I think, and then he spoke from Srila Jiva Goswami's Bhakti Sandarbha, where he discusses various points about worshipping the deities and how by worshipping the deities are, very potent, like that he discusses in detail. Uh, yeah, this is where we ended our discussion last week, and we still have one more section, some interesting deity stories that Maharaj is going to share. Of course, one of them is Sakshi Gopal story that he is going to discuss in detail. And then we are going to discuss some other interesting stories. But before we start that, there are any quick discussion points, questions, comments, anything anyone would like to share as add, you can please go ahead. Anything anyone would like to ask, share, add based on what we have discussed till now and summarize. Okay. If there is none, then we'll continue our discussion. So basically, what is the context of Maharaj discussing these deity stories? The context is that uh, uh, he says that in the absence of the association of devotees, we can aspire for Krishna's mercy. And one of the most powerful ways of trying to access Krishna's mercy is uh, through worship of deities, uh, be it uh, uh, be it Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra, or Shri Radha Gopinath, or Shri Gaur Nitai. So whatever deities we may have uh, at our place, by worshipping them, we can genuinely access the mercy. In case if the association of devotees is not available. So, and that in that context, he's going to discuss deity stories, including the story of Sakshi Gopal. So, let us start reading this section. Following, Maharaj says, the following are stories illustrating that deities of Krishna are non-different from Krishna himself. First is a story of Sakshi Gopal. Of course, this is there in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. We all know the story. Before Sakshi Gopal had come to Vijayanagar in Andhra Pradesh, in the south of India, there was also an interesting story of him getting to Cuttack. So how did he come to Cuttack? There is a story connected to that. One of the ancestors of Maharaj Prataparudra, the king of Orissa, had heard of this deity who had walked all the way from Vrindavan to Vijayanagar to bear witness for the young Brahmana. So one of the ancestors of Prataparudra Maharaja had heard that how a Sakshi Gopal deity had walked all the way from Vrindavan to Vijayanagar, which is in Andhra Pradesh. So he became very curious. This ancestor thought, I have the best deities in my kingdom, Lord Jagannath, but I want to have this Gopal in my kingdom as well. So I have the best deities in my kingdom, Lord Jagannath, but I want this Gopalji also in my kingdom. So with a small army, he came to the king of Andhra Pradesh and said, I have only one request. Please give me Gopal. He says. The king of Andhra Pradesh refused, preferring battle rather than giving him the Gopal deity, but he lost. So the king of Andhra lost that battle. huh? He could not win. So his opponent said, so of course, I mean, I think you are understanding. First, the Gopalji's deity was in Vrindavan. From Vrindavan, it walked all the way to Andhra Pradesh, Vijayanagar. Now, the king of Odisha wants that Gopal deity in his kingdom. So he goes and requests the king of Andhra Pradesh to give Gopal deity. He refuses, so he says, then we will fight. So he agrees. But the king of Andhra Pradesh lost that battle. So his opponent said, again, I make the same request of you. I have defeated you and I don't need your kingdom. Just give me Gopal. But the king of Andhra Pradesh replied, I am sorry, I can give you my kingdom, but I won't be able to give you Gopal because he does belong to me. I belong to him. You should sort it out with Gopal. If he wants to go with you, you are welcome. So this is, I mean, both were amazing devotees. Both these kings were amazing devotees. Neither was the king of Odisha, neither did he have a desire to fight and get the kingdom, nor did this king of Andhra Pradesh. Uh, I mean, he didn't mind giving up his kingdom, but his mood was, I cannot give Gopal to you. I can give you something that belongs to me, but I cannot give you something to whom I belong. You know, so I belong to Gopal. Gopal does not belong to me. How can I give you my master? If you had asked for my servant, I could have given that servant to you. Or if you had asked me something that belonged to me, I could have given it to you. But I belong to Gopal. Just like we saw the mood of Raghunath Das Goswami. Even though he got a small uh, Govardhan Shila from Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, uh, I mean, he said, Chaitanya Raghunath Das Goswami says that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has handed me over to Govardhan rather than has handed Govardhan Shila to me. That's the way we all would say. Oh, he gave me this Govardhan Shila. None of us would say he gave me to Govardhan Shila. He gave me to Govardhanji. We did not, we won't say that. Right? So here was this king of Andhra Pradesh who says, how can I give Gopalji to you? He does not belong to me, he belongs to him. The king came to Gopal and said, the king of Odisha said, Gopal, I want you to be in Odisha. So then Gopal decided to speak from the sky. Gopal said, you want me? I want you to come with me and I will serve you. I will build a temple for you and take care of you. This is what the king of Odisha said. Please come with me. I will build a temple for you and I will take care of you. So then Gopal said, okay, I'm used to walking and I love it, but you should meet the same requirements that uh, you know the younger Brahmana had, but that Gopalji had told to younger Brahmana. So, so that you walk and you will be hearing my uh, the sound of my ankle bells, but you should not turn and look. If you turn and look, then I will stop there. This was the condition. So that young Brahmana, when he was walking along every day, he begged this and cooked the hill of it for him. So every day the young Brahmana used to beg for rice and he used to cook a hill of rice for me. I still remember how delicious it was. So you will have to do the same. So the Lord says, you have to beg rice for me and cook a hill of rice for me. You should ask for rice in every village and cook a hill of it for me. This was condition. The king said, as you say, I am your servant. He said, I am your servant, I will do whatever you say. So the king took off his crown, his royal armor, and his weaponry. He was a genuine Vaishnava. He removed his crown, his royal armor, his weaponry. He clad his body in simple clothes and went to beg alms. He didn't sign it to any of his soldiers. He personally went to beg alms. Gopal watched him to make sure that he was not cheating. So all the way to Orissa, he begged alms until at last they reached Cuttack. So they reached Cuttack. Till then, he was Cuttack is in Odisha. So till there, he was begging for alms. When he arrived in Cuttack, his wife, who had a valuable pearl that had been handed down from generation to generation, knew that Gopal was coming. So the wife of that king of Odisha, she had a very valuable pearl. She was uh, having it in her as a part of her nose ring. So when Gopalji agreed to come and he came, she had this deep desire to hand over that knowing to Gopal. So she thought, what shall I give to Gopal? I should give him everything, right? If I belong to him, I should give everything to him. This is how she thought. And she was just as her husband, completely sold out. So she prepared this valuable nose ring to give it to him. So she prepared a nose ring made of pearl to give it to Gopal. She called the Pujari and said, dear Pujari, please decorate Gopal with this pearl. The Pujari approached the deity and started looking for a hole in the nose. Looking for a hole in the nose because it was a nose ring. So he had to, if the hole was there, he can put it. So he came back and said, oh, there is no hole in Gopal's nose, he said. So she became upset and said, okay, then keep this pearl somewhere. But I want to see Gopal with his pearl in his nose. So she told, I want to see Gopal with his pearl in his nose. Of course, in today's, in our ISKCON, we use blue tack or something like that to put nose rings, finger rings, and everything. So we don't need uh, a, a hole in the nose to put a nose ring for Krishna or earrings for Krishna. We use blue tack to put, but in those days, they would not do any of that. If there was a hole, then they would use it to put the nose ring, I guess. So Gopal came to her in a dream that night and said, "This Pujari does not know anything. Yashoda pierced a hole for me. The Pujari just couldn't find it. Tell him to look carefully. I remember having Yashoda pierce the hole." So Gopalji told this queen in her dream, "Oh, Yashoda pierced a hole and that hole is still there. This uh, Pujari just didn't see properly. Ask him to see properly tomorrow." So the queen woke up happy and ran to the Pujari first thing to say, "Look for the hole. It's there." The Pujari went and found the hole, although it wasn't there the day before. It wasn't there the day before. Today, on that particular day, the next day, he found it. So he had this valuable pearl put on the Lord, thus responding to the queen's devotion and bhakti. So this is where Gopalji responded, "Pratima nahi tumi sakshat brajendra nandan." So to the extent that we can approach and worship the deity in the mood that the deity is not a representation of Krishna. The deity is Krishna himself. So there are three levels of worshipping the deity or the holy name. We have discussed this many times. So there is this Kanishtadhikari, there is the Madhyamadhikari, there is the Uttamadhikari. Okay. So the Kanishtadhikari, he worships the deity or he does not worship. Kanishtadhikari is you can say he is outside the realm of pure devotional faith. This is Bhagavatam's Kanishtadhikari. He has Jadamaya vision of the deity. The Madhyamadhikari has a Manomaya vision of the deity. And the Uttamadhikari has a Chinmaya vision of the deity. So what is this Jadamaya, Manomaya and Chinmaya vision? So Jadamaya vision means we see that there is no special transcendental speciality about the deity. We think that the deity is not that special, just like under stone, So that is Jadamaya vision. The Madhyamadhikari, who are the sadhakas, they have a Manomaya vision of dealing with the holy name and the deities. Manomaya means, even though theoretically they may know, Pratima nahi tumi sakshat brajendra nandan. We know that, oh, you are not a Pratima, but you are sakshat Krishna. But there is very little of internalization of this principle. We have not internalized this principle. That is why when we go in front of the deities, we don't behave as if we are standing right in front of Krishna. We think of multiple things. And when we feed the deity forms, we don't consciously do it, right? Like when we serve Boga, we may not give sufficient time for the Lord to eat. And when we dress him, we may dress him in a way that might actually be inconvenient for a living human being to wear. Just because it's just like we might decorate him like we may decorate a house, like that. So a house is a jadavastu. A house does not have cannot feel the burden or inconvenience. A house cannot get inconvenience. A house does not have emotions. But if we actually saw the deity as being non-different from Krishna, then uh, Krishna actually, uh, uh, he has, he's a, if Krishna, if the deity is a person, then he might feel inconvenienced dressing in a particular way, uh, and like heavy garlands, heavy necklaces, uh, 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 so many other such things. He completely, or when he eats, he might, just like a person needs particular duration of time to eat, we might not give sufficient time for the Lord to eat like that. So, or when we come in front of the deities, we may still gossip in front of the deities, just like, but you know, in front of Krishna himself, how to speak of in front of Krishna, in front of a senior devotee or in front of one spiritual master, we would follow very strict etiquettes, wonderful etiquettes, but mm, in front of the deities, we may not follow such etiquettes because we may we may not we have not internalized the fact that deity is actually non-different from Krishna. Hmm? But still, we may go in front of the deities and sometimes offer prayers. We may serve the deities and all that, uh, because we have some trust, a strong trust that he is not just an ordinary stone. Theoretically, we know that he is non-different from Krishna, but on a practical level, it is neither Jadamaya, where we think he is just a stone, and it is Chinmaya, where we think he is absolutely non-different from Krishna. It is somewhere in between, where we may at the most accept the deity as a representation of Krishna, as a representation of Krishna in the material world, but we may not see their lordships as being non-different from Krishna. So, therefore, uh, but the reciprocation of the deity forms of the Lord is to the extent our consciousness is closer to that Maya vision. Uh, to that extent, we can expect reciprocation from Krishna. So anyway, so this was the story of Sakshi Gopal. After Sakshi Gopal came from Vrindavan to Andhra Pradesh, and how he reached Cuttack, where it is. I mean, it's not even, yeah. Sakshi Gopal is not in Cuttack now. I think from Cuttack, it is close to Puri right now. Anyone remembers? I think Sakshi Gopal is not in Cuttack. I think it has moved. He has moved from Cuttack to close to Puri, right? That's where he is right now. Or is he still in Cuttack? Anyone knows? He is close to Puri now, right? And there is another story for that. Anyway. Okay. Now let's hear another story of the deities. He says another story is about a village in Rajasthan called Karoli, where the deity of Madan Mohan is now living. This is the deity that Advaita Acharya originally found, and later Sanatana Goswami worshipped him in Vrindavan. Even later, when the deity had left Vrindavan in fear of Aurangzeb's invasion, he was moved to Jaipur, where he resided for some time, worshipped by the king's daughter. So, Jaipur king's daughter was worshipping Madan Mohanji. So her father, as is the custom in traditional Indian families, had arranged for his daughter to marry a prince of a small kingdom in Karoli. So the Jaipur king had arranged for the marriage of his daughter to the prince of Karoli. When he announced this to his daughter, she fainted. Why? She said, I have already given my heart to Madan Mohan. How can I go somewhere and part with him? For the sake of propriety, I can get married, but I am not living here. Because for a woman, it's not appropriate to not get married. For that purpose, I may get married, but I will not leave this place because I have given my heart to Madan Mohanji and I cannot leave this place. So her father replied, I am sorry, but everything has already been arranged. You have to leave. So his daughter said, then you should give me Madan Mohan because I am not going without him. So he said that you should give me Madan Mohan then because I am not going without him. So the king himself, so this is also a typical family, right? The king himself was very attached to Madan Mohan and said, okay, you will be taken into the room with lots of deities. If blindfolded, you guess which one is Madan Mohan, then you may take him with you. So this was, you know, uh, at that time, that was the time when Madan Mohanji was there. Then Govindji was there. He had also come from. Uh, he had also come from Vrindavan to Jaipur. Gopinath ji was there. He had also come from Vrindavan to Jaipur. So all of them were there in that room, and and she said, and she was blindfolded, and you have to, if you touch the right Madan Mohan deity, or if you identify which one is Madan Mohan deity, then you can take. So then he was very confident that she cannot find that out. So she went to her quarters and started to cry and say, Madan Mohan, how will I find you? So Madan Mohan replied, when you touch me, my skin will be warm and soft, so you will know at once. Also, I am going to break my flute. I will put my arm down a little and the flute will break. These are the two signs that are going to help you find me. Okay, of course, there are different versions of this story. So this is one version where Madan Mohanji tells the princess that when you touch me, my skin will be actually warm and soft, just like a human being skin. And then you will know me that it is me. And also, here this version says that I will break my flute. But another version says that when she goes near, Madan Mohanji is so eager to be touched by that princess that, forgetting that he had a flute in his hand, he bends his arm so that he can be very easily touched by the princess. But in bending the arm, the flute also gets bent and broken. So this is another story. And even today, the hands, of a typical Krishna deity who is standing in his Tribanga form, the both the hands are properly, you can say, at a level, where the flute can enter through the hole of one hand and come through the hole of the other hand. So that is how the deities are made, and that was how Madan Mohanji was also made. But uh, when he bent down, then one hand went over. So there will not be alignment of that hole. So unless you break the flute, you cannot insert the flute. So this actually happened. So Madan Mohanji's hand was um, mm, uh, before this incident happened, the way Sanatan Goswami and Advaita Acharya worshipped Madan Mohanji's deity, the hand was aligned. The right hand and left hand were aligned. But post this particular episode, the hand went down. The right hand was down. It was little bit bent. So and the flute got broken and there was alignment. So even today in Madan Mohanji's temple in Karoli, or the exact replica of Madan Mohanji at Govardhan Eco Village, if you see, there is no alignment of the flute, of the two hands, and you have broken flute. Two pieces of flute are there. One is inserted into the left hand, another is inserted into the right hand. Okay. So this is another story, and there is a third story. Whichever version is right. The third story is that actually the princess was attached to Govindji. She wanted Radha Govind to come with her to Karoli. This is the third story. Okay. This Indradimna Swami Maharaj says. So the princess wanted Radha Govind to, she was attached to Radha Govind, and but Madan Mohanji was attached to this princess. So he was eager to go to Karoli with the prince, but the prince wanted Govindji. So she was blindfolded, and and the king said, whichever deity you touch, you can take that deity with you. And she wanted to touch Govindji, but because Madan Mohanji was very eager to go with her because he was attached to that princess, so Madanji, in his eagerness, he bent his hands so that she will touch him. So when he bent his hand, the flute broke. This is the third story. So anyway, whichever way the deity reciprocated, all are so blissful to hear. Pratimana hi Sakshat Vrajendra Nandan. So Madan Mohanji, whichever way reciprocated, Madan Mohanji did bend his hand and he did break his flute for his devotee. This is true. Whichever be the version, which is right. But Madan Mohanji did want to go with the princess to Karoli. He did go with the princess to Karoli and he did bend his hand and break the flute. This we know for sure. Okay. So, according to this version, Madan Mohanji said, okay, when you touch me, my skin will be warm and soft, just like a human being's skin, and you will know that it's me, like that. So the blindfolded princess was quick to find Madan Mohan. In this way, he moved to Karoli. In Karoli, each morning the entire village attends Mangalarati. Some people even make Dandavat all the way from home to the temple. And it's a very simple village. And everyone practically comes to take darshan of Madan Mohanji during Mangalarati, which is quite early in the morning. Everyone goes. The sick, the old, and the young, everyone comes for Madan Mohanji's Mangalarati. They sometimes call Madan Mohan the one who stole a tray for a Muslim. So Madan Mohanji once stole a tray for the Muslim. So this is the story. Once there lived a pious Muslim in Karoli. Every day he read the Quran, praying and meditating on Allah. He wouldn't look at deities because, from the point of view of Islam, this is the most serious crime ever to consider that God could manifest himself in some tangible form. Of course, uh, they don't have an understanding of transcendental form. So, therefore, uh, their understanding is that how can the transcendental Lord manifest in a material form? So, they don't accept that. So, to prevent people from committing offenses, all of these warnings are incorporated in Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. So he was a devout Muslim, respected by all the Muslims and revered as a saint. So he was not only a Muslim, but he was accepted by the other Muslims as a great saint. Hindus also revered him as a very pious person. Even the Hindus respected him as a very pious person. Uh, Externally, he was an ordinary man who worked in court delivering letters. So externally, he didn't have a very, very high job or anything like that. He was just delivering uh, letters in the court. Uh, so once he was sent with some errand to Madan Mohan's temple, where a Goswami ji was in charge. So he was sent for some work to that temple, Madan Mohanji's temple. So while passing by, he accidentally looked into the window and saw Madan Mohan. So when he went to the temple, he accidentally looked into the window and he saw Madan Mohan. He couldn't believe what he had seen. He fell in love with him at first sight. So he fell in love with Madan Mohanji. So he delivered the letter to the Goswami ji, stopped and started to look through the bars. So he went, delivered the letter to the Goswami ji, came again, and he again started looking through the bars. He thought, what am I doing? I am a faithful Muslim. So he ran to the mosque and started to pray, deliver me from this obsession. So this is exactly the gopis are praying in this way. They're praying so that they can forget Krishna. So the Muslim here is praying in the mosque. Somehow, please deliver me from this obsession. I am getting obsessed with this statue like that. But when he closed his eyes, all he saw was Madan Mohan. When he opened his eyes, he saw only Madan Mohan. Wherever he went, he saw Madan Mohan. And finally, he understood it was hopeless. Understood, I can't do anything now. He understood that it was hopeless. Madan Mohan means the one who attracts and draws us. And at his whim, Madan Mohan completely revealed himself to this Muslim because Krishna is uh, completely independent. He's Swarat. So he can choose whom to reveal himself to. So he decided, I will reveal myself to this Muslim. So he revealed, and the Muslim was obsessed. Wherever he went, with his eyes closed or eyes open, he saw only Madan Mohan. Madan Mohan had completely attracted him and, consumed his mind. He forgot everything. He stopped going to the mosque and reading the Quran, and instead he started composing songs about Madan Mohan. So this was the extent to which he sort of started doing. He was a devout Muslim, so he stopped going to the mosque, stopped reading the Quran, and instead he started singing songs about Madan Mohan. All of his Muslim brothers thought he's an infidel, drohi, he needs to be kicked out. The most terrible thing that could happen to him was to be excommunicated from his religion, and he was. They excommunicated from him from the religion. They said, "No longer a Muslim. You don't belong to us." He then went to the temple, but when they learned he was a Muslim, the doorkeepers forced him away, pushing him down the steps and making him fall. So they didn't the Muslims, they excommunicated him. The Hindus would not allow him inside the temple. Before this, both Hindus and Muslims respected him, but now both Hindus and Muslims rejected him. He went back to his home and started to cry, saying, "No one needs me anymore. I have given my heart to God. There is nothing else in my heart. Some way or other, God revealed it to me and entered into my heart, but everyone expelled me." So everyone expelled me. So in this way, he was crying. So then he decided, I will fast till death. And he had been fasting just 3 days when Madan Mohan could not wait any longer. Usually in the evening, the pujaris would place an expensive silver tray of sweets for Madan Mohan in case he would wake up and feel like something to eat. So they would keep an expensive tray of sweets for Madan Mohan. So every day, because there they treat him just like Mother Yashoda's small son. So at night, he might want to eat something, so there is always a tray of sweet that is kept. The pujari left, closing the altar doors and locking up the temple. Later, the Muslim heard a knock on the door. He answered the door and he saw a youth he had never seen before. The youth said, "Goswamiji from the temple has sent me to you with Mahaprasadam. Here it is. Have some, please, but you should bring the tray back tomorrow for Mangalam." So he said, "Goswamiji has sent this tray of sweets for you. He wants you to eat these sweets. But when you please come tomorrow for Mangalati and bring back this tray of sweets." So he replied, "But how can I come? I was kicked out." The youth said, "Tomorrow you won't be kicked out. Come for Aarti early morning tomorrow. Bring the tray and everything will be all right." They told, "Bring the tray, everything will be all right. Tomorrow they will not kick you out." So now, what was a Muslim supposed to do? He ate everything on the tray as he had been fasting for 3 days. So for 3 days he had been fasting. So he ate everything that was there on the tray. But during the night, Madan Mohan came to the Goswamiji and said, "You shouldn't have kicked out the man. I haven't seen him for 3 days. He is coming tomorrow morning, but you should let him in. You will recognize him because he will be carrying a silver tray." He said, "Why did you kick that man out? This was bad. So, um, and I haven't seen him for 3 days, and I'm very eager to see him. So tomorrow morning he will come. Don't kick him out. You will recognize him because he will be carrying my silver tray." So early in the morning, one of the pujaris woke up. He went on the altar and saw no trace of the costly tray. There was no trace of it. He clutched his head in his hands and ran to the Goswami and said, "The tray has been stolen. It has been stolen. Honestly, I had nothing to do with that." He was, I didn't do anything. The tray is not there. You know, I didn't do anything like that. The Goswamiji smiled and said, "The one who stole it has already admitted it. Don't worry." So it was Madan Mohanji who had stolen. So he said, "The one who stole it actually has admitted it. Don't worry. You don't have to become tense. Everything is sorted out." The Goswamiji went to the Maharaj of Karoli and told the whole story. Maharaj could not believe that a Muslim could develop such strong love for Krishna. So they were both standing and waiting for him at the temple gate. So the Goswamiji and the king, both of them were waiting at the temple gate to receive that Muslim who was going to come with the silver tray. The Muslim was walking, carrying the tray in his hand with a strange feeling in his heart, thinking, "This is a very strange story. First, I have never seen that person in the temple. The boy who came to give me the tray, I have been staying in Karoli for such a long time, but I have never seen this person. Who was he? Huh? Second, he gave me this tray. He may have stolen it and then got scared and given it me, or perhaps the Muslims may have set me up." So he was thinking, "I've never seen this boy. Hmm. So, and he gave me this tray. Maybe he stole this tray and he got scared and he didn't want to get caught. So maybe he gave the tray to me, or maybe it is the Muslims who are setting me up to get beaten up by these uh, Hindus." So when he approached the temple, he saw the Maharaj himself and the Goswamiji standing in front of the gate. So what would he think? He thought, "Well, I am dead. I am dead." He was in no doubt that he was going to be put in jail, confirmed. But when he approached, Goswamiji said, "I have been waiting long for you. You are so fortunate." "Why?" asked the Muslim. And then both the king and the Goswamiji started to talk all at once. "You are incredibly lucky." Huh? He was at loss. What had happened? Nobody told him anything. They were saying, "You are so lucky, you are so fortunate, you are so lucky," like that. But he could not understand what's happening. Why are they speaking like this? I'm not able to understand anything. He started to think, "Hmm, why has everyone changed their attitude to me so dramatic? Why everyone is behaving so nicely with me? Only a few days ago, they kicked me out, not wanting to see me, and now they are welcoming me with open arms." A suspicion crept in, and he asked, "Where is the servant that brought me the tray? I have never seen him before." So he wanted to confirm. So he asked the Goswamiji, "Where is that servant who brought me this tray? Just tell me." They told the Muslim, "The servant is there waiting for you on the Simhasan, but he is not a servant anymore." So he said, "Yes, yes, the servant is there waiting on the Simhasan for you. Please come." But he's not a servant anymore. He is no longer a servant. And now suddenly it occurred to him what had happened. Now the Muslim understood that actually Madan Mohanji himself had come. Everybody rejoiced. All in all, it ended well, except that he couldn't live in the village anymore because of all fuss people were making over him. So now, in one sense, he was allowed to enter into Madan Mohanji's temple, and Madan Mohanji had personally come in the form of a boy and delivered. But now he was a big celebrity, and he was finding it very awkward and embarrassing to stay in that village because everyone was making a big fuss about this whole thing like that. There are still songs in that place glorifying the story. The tray that Madan Mohan had taken to the Muslim devotee is still there in the temple. The moral of this story is that the moral of this story is what Raghunath Das Goswami is speaking about. Even if there is no hope, there is always hope. So even if there is no hope, there is always hope. That's what he's telling. So that is, we have to develop a positive relationship with the deities. Then we can expect the mercy of the deities, even in the worst case, if we may not have the association of devotees. He says, what hope? This hope comes from understanding that Krishna's mercy is more than my hopelessness, and that he himself may do everything possible for us if we serve him. So Krishna's mercy is more than my hopelessness. And that he himself may do everything possible for us if we serve him. All that we to do is to serve him. This process is the most practical thing ever. People attend seminars learning how to manage their time. But why manage time? Everything is already managed. One should have the following routine: get up when the deity does, go to bed when the deity does, eat prasadam for the deities, and then the things will appear as this verse describes. What does this verse describe? Yata dushtatvam me dabayati shatasyapi kripaya yata mahyam premamritam dadati ujjvalamasau. What is the next this thing? Okay, just one. So three things, right? What he says here. So he says that, yata mahyam premamritam api dadatyujjalamasau yata shri gandharva bhajana viday prerayati mam tata goshte kakva giridaram ihatvam bhajamana. So when we serve deity, get up when the deity gets up, go to bed when the deity does, and eat prasadam offered to the deity, which means wake up the deity. Because when you get up when the deity does means someone has to wake up the deity. Go to bed when the deity does means the deity has to go to bed, so you have to put him to bed, and honor the prasadam that is offered to the deity, which means you have to offer bhoga to the deity. So which means when the deity is served, then the three things happen. Me dattvam dabayati ujjvalam premamritam mahyam dadati Shri Gandharva Bhajana Vidaye Mam Prerayati. All these three things happen automatically when the deity is served in this particular way. So just hold on while I reach that slide where Bhakti Vigyan Goswami Maharaj is talking about what does it mean to actually uh, attract the mercy of Krishna. To attract the mercy of Krishna is actually, it means to serve the deities and to attract his mercy, right? So all the dushtatva, all the impurity will leave our heart. Premamrita, love for Krishna will enter into our heart, as well as the opportunity to serve the queen of Praja. All three will happen if we serve the deities. That is where Srila Bhakti Vigyan Goswami Maharaj ends this story. There are many such stories, deity stories, where the deity responded. So to those devotees who had served, there are many such deity stories. There was a very great saint by the name in the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya. His name is Tirumazhayalvar. So he had a disciple whose name was Kanigannan. He was a very dear disciple of Tirumazhayalvar. So, and this, they were staying in Kanchipuram, and in Kanchipuram, there is a deity of the Lord who is lying down, and generally the Vishnu deities are lying facing south. But this particular deity lies down facing north, and there is a story behind this. Originally, the deity was in Srirangam facing south only. So this is like Ranganath type deity lying on Anantasesh facing south. So one day what happened? Uh, the king, this Kanikannan was a very great poet, and he had written beautiful poems glorifying the Supreme Lord. And when the king of that area came to know about this, he asked for Kanikannan to be brought to his court. And he said, why don't you write some poems glorifying me? Kanikannan said, no. My ability to write poems and poetry is meant only for the glorification of Krishna and no one else. My capability to serve will not be used for serving any mortal beings. It is only for the service of Krishna. The king got offended and he said, in that case, you cannot stay in my kingdom. You have to get out. So Kanigannan was kicked out of the kingdom. So at that time, Tirumazhayalvar said, okay, if if there is no place for Kanigannan in this kingdom, then I will also leave. So he starts leaving. And then he comes back and he says, I am not here. Kanigannan is not here, and I am not here. And my dear Lord, what business have you got in this city? So you can come with me, follow us. And after telling this, Tirumashayalvar walked away following Kanigannan. And the Lord there, he picks up Anantasesh like one would roll a chatai. Huh? So he rolled Anantasesh like a chatai and put it on his armpit, and he started walking behind Tirumashayalvar. So this was a sight to behold. Huh? And everyone was watching. Kanigandan was walking. Behind him, Tirumazhi was walking. And behind him, the Lord was walking, holding Anantasesh on his armpit. And the message immediately went to the king. The king was astonished. He understood, actually the greatness of uh, these two personalities. So he went and fell at the feet of the Lord, requesting him to return. The Lord said, "You have to ask Tirumazhi Alvar." Tirumazhi Alvar said, "If Kanigandan returns, I will return." Then he went and fell at the feet of Kanigandan and requested him to come back. So when Kanigandan turned back and started coming back to the kingdom, Tirumazhi Alvar also turned back, and the Lord also turned back. And he came back, then he lied down. But then because he had turned back and he started walking on the opposite direction, when he lied down facing north. That is why, actually, if you see, um, in that is the only temple where the Lord in his lying posture is not lying facing south. And there is this story behind this whole thing. So therefore, the name of the deity is actually Yatoktakari. Yatoktakari means Yata Ukari. Whatever was told to him, he did. So the Tirumashayarvar said, "Get up and follow me." And he got up and followed Tirumashayarvar. And when he was told to come back, okay, Kanigandan is going back, I am also going back. Now you can also back to the kingdom. So he followed and he said, "Okay, now you can lie down." So he lied down. Yata Uktakari. Whatever the devotee told, the Lord follows. Hmm. So like that. So this is one story. And there is another story uh, with the same Alvar, Tirumazhi Alvar. And this is with a different deity in a place called Kumbakonam. So in Kumbakonam, there is the Lord um, uh, Ara Sarangapani. Hmm. So Sarangapani is he is also the form of the Lord is like Ranganath who is lying down. So one day Tirumazhi Alvar visited this particular temple and the Lord was lying down. So he came and stood before the Lord. The Lord was still lying down. Tirumazhi Alvar became angry and he said, "Hey, I have come to see you and follow some etiquette. You should get up to receive me." Uh, and the Lord got embarrassed. "I am a deity form. What do you expect me to do? But still, if you have this expectation, you are my devotee. What can I do?" Then he started rising up. Huh? So and then Tirumashayarva realized his mistake and he said, "Oh no, 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 and please lie down, freeze," like that. And he froze like that. So if you see the uh, deity form of that Sarangapani deity, you will see that it's a very unusual reclining position. It is half raised. He is not fully lying down. He is not sitting also. It is half raised position. It's called as Uttana Shayana. Uttana means to sit. Shayana means to lie down. Uttana Shayana means when one is rising up from his reclining position to sit. It is that kind of posture. And the deity form was not like that before Tirumazhi Alvar had visited him. It was a fully reclining position. But now, after this episode, he changed his position completely. Like that, there are so many stories of deities with the devotees, especially with those devotees who actually saw the deity and worshipped the deity in with a Chinmaya vision. not seeing the deity as a mere stone, not even seeing the deity as a representative of Krishna, but seeing the deity as being non-different from Krishna. This is Chinmaya vision, right? So, like that. So, if we develop gradually the right mood of worshipping the deity forms and become attached to worshipping the deity forms, then even if by Krishna's arrangement we may not have the physical association of devotees, then that attachment to Krishna can accomplish everything. Dushtatvam me davayati ujjvala premamritam mahyam dadati and Shri Gandharva bhajana vidaye mam prerayati. All three can happen just by one's attachment to the deity forms of the Lord. So like that, there are many further stories of the there are many such stories which are there, and some devotees are requesting to narrate more pastimes, but we may not necessarily have time. We have about 20 minutes and we have Urmila Mataji's commentary to complete. So once we complete this, then from next week onwards, we can start the 9th verse. And 9th verse onwards, we may maximum take 2 to complete 1 verse. And very quickly, we are going to complete Manasiksha. So, Urmila Mataji writes, in this verse, the devotees Krishna has crossed beyond practice. So he says, pride is gone completely. Authentic humility saturates the heart with gratitude and acknowledgement that only divine mercy has eradicated one's deep cheating nature. This is a very important point. Okay. So just hold on for 1 second. Okay. So here, I'm sorry. So he says, authentic humility, Mataji writes, saturates the heart with gratitude and acknowledgement that only divine mercy has eradicated one's deep cheating nature. So with humility, when our heart is saturated with humility and gratitude, then it attracts mercy. And that mercy eradicates our cheating nature. The devotee can now say with full conviction, I am wretched yet blessed. I am wretched yet blessed. The devotee now never wants any trace of cheating or pride to remain. Such devotees, thoroughly honest, open their hearts for full cleansing with nothing held back. So now their heart is, with full humility, they are seeking mercy of Krishna by serving the deity forms of the Lord, then their heart gets cleansed and nothing, no anartha remains. Now one's eternal identity becomes not just hinted at in sometimes hazy glimpses and impressions, but is gradually fully revealed by the grace of Krishna's internal potency, Gandharva. She of artistic singing. So now Mataji writes that this is the stage where once because Anartha Nivritti has been fully accomplished with verse 7. In verse 8, when and also the other acharyas also suggested that this is stage where one reaches the stage of Raganuga. So when Anartha Nivritti is completely accomplished and one crosses Nishta and reaches Ruchi and one develops the kind of greed for becoming a follower of the Vrajavasis, then at that point of time, one's identity in Goloka Vrindavan starts getting revealed. Who am I? And by one's practice of sincere devotional service, one's identity gets revealed, and one gets that identity confirmed from the spiritual master, and one starts practicing that way. So that is what is called as Gandharva Bhajana Vidaye Mam Prerayati. What is the vidhi or the procedure for worshipping Shri Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan in the mood of the gopis? So the supplicant means one who is humbly praying. The supplicant therefore begs Krishna as Govardhan and as the lifter of Govardhan for Gandharva's shelter and service. So he approaches Krishna as and Govardhan, and he approaches Krishna as Giridhari, the holder of Govardhan hill. So he takes shelter of Giridhari and Govardhan to seek shelter of Gandharva. Gandharva is Radharani. Beyond shelter and service, one needs to make a plea for Mahyam Premamritam Apidadati Ujwalam, receiving the full and glowing nectar of spiritual love. So shelter, we should seek shelter, we should seek service, but also we should make an earnest prayer for receiving that nectar of love towards Krishna. In previous verses, Raghunath Goswami wrote of receiving the jewel of this love and then bathing in the ocean of this love. Here, we beg for that love to be not just external and localized as a jewel in the hand, and not just external and pervasive as a bath surrounding us, but internal and pervasive as a drink. So the 3 times that love was mentioned. Initially said that in the second verse he said that uh, uh, what is that? Not in the second verse. In the 4th verse he mentioned that what was the 4th verse? He said Asadvarta Veshya न श्रुणु किल सर्वात असद्वार्ता वेश्य असद्वार्ता वेश्य न कुरु किल सर्वात सर्वस्व हरणी कथा मुक्ति व्याग्र्य न शुनु किल सर्वात्म गिलनी अपि त्यक्त्वा लक्ष्मी पतिरतिम इतो व्योम नयनीम and then Baje Radha Krishna Swarati Manidau Tvam Bhajamana, something like that. So where it is mentioned that but worship Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan, and when you worship them, they are Swarati Manidau. They will give you the jewel of their love, the love for themselves, like that he says. So in that, the love for Krishna was compared to a jewel, which is external. This is she's Urmila Mataji is making this comparison here. Then later in the 6th verse of Manasiksha, when he was talking about hypocrisy, duplicity, and cheating propensity, he said, don't take bath in this trickling donkey urine of hypocrisy, duplicity, and cheating propensity. Rather, take bath in the oceanic love of the nectar of love of Radha Krishna's lotus feet, like that. So, in the 4th verse, he spoke about receiving the jewel which is externally worn and which is localized. In the 7th verse, 6th verse, he spoke about take bath in that love which is pervasive, no longer localized, but still external. Now, in this 8th verse, 4, 6, 8, in the 8th verse, he is again speaking about that love, but he is now talking about Ujjvala Premamritam Mahyam Dadati. So it's a nectarian beverage which is meant to be drunk. So it is no longer localized, it is no longer external, but it is internal and pervasive, when you drink. So he says, as we drink that divine love, its effulgence lights up our very self. Bhakti Vinod writes in his commentary on verse 8 about the 5 elements of rasa, our eternal relationships, Hai Bhava, namely service, friendship, parental or amorous, Dasya Sakya Vatsalya or Madhurya, and our lovable object and shelter, Alambana, the stimulus, Uddipana, for our eternal relationship, and how we display our eternal relationship in the form of Anubhava, the symptoms of our eternal relationship, the Sattvika Bhava, and the changing waves of emotions within the context of our eternal relationship, the Sanchari Bhavas. All these 5 ingredients, Samagri Bhavas, are the ingredients of prasad. They all start manifesting. So then he says, it is important to note that all designations of this body and this world must be cast aside at this point to accept our real identity and experience the mixing of these 5 parts to make rasa. So this is the place, this is the stage of devotional service where initially in the very first verse of Manasiksha, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami said, Gurau Goshte Goshtalayishu Sujane Bosuragane Swamantri Namni Vrajanavayuvad Vandvasharane Sadadambam Hitva Kuru Ratim Apurvam Atitaram Aye Swantar Bhratas Chatubirabiyache Drutapada. So he talks about establishing a relationship with Krishna by establishing a relationship with the things, people, places connected to Krishna. So he speaks about that. So now here he has established that relationship, or he has almost established that relationship. So therefore that relationship is made of exchanges between the beloved and the lover. And those exchanges are exchanges of spiritual emotions which have these ingredients: Sthai Bhav, Anubhav, Sattvika Bhav, Sanchari Bhav, and Vibhav. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes in his commentary here about a gradual and progressive training in eternal service with the example of those who are gopis in Radharani's group. So now we have entered into the realm of Anartha Nivritti is over. Now Artha Pravritti has started from the 8th verse, where he is talking about Ujjvala Premamritam Mahyam Dadati Gandharva bhajana vidaye mam prerayati. So this is now the person has reached the stage of raganuga bhakti. Those who are in a different relationship will have a similar training, though the details will vary. In all cases, the pleasure potency of Krishna now enters our heart and attracts Krishna. So this is the 8th verse, where Srila Raghunath Das Goswami is indicating that one has to raise one's level of attachment to Krishna, and this is possible especially when anartha nivritti has been accomplished. When the anarthas are removed by the practice of bhakti, then automatically along with that virakti, pareshanubhava also manifests. Bhakti, pareshanubhavo, viraktir, anyatra chaishatrika ekakala. Ekakala. So, on the path of bhakti, virakti and pareshanubhava happens parallelly. Anartha nivritti and artha pravritti are parallelly accomplished. So, 4, 5, 6, 7 spoke about anartha nivritti. Along with that 4 stages of anartha nivritti, parallelly artha pravritti has also happened. So therefore, one has developed a relationship with Krishna. So, or one is ready to establish a relationship with Krishna. So this 8th verse indicates one's entry into the stage of Raganuga Bhakti after Anartha Nivritti is established. Like that. Anyway, so now that one has entered into the realm of Raganuga Bhakti, how does worship on the level of your Raganuga Bhakti, how is it accomplished? How is worship performed on the level of Raganuga? That we will start seeing from next week onwards. So from next week onwards, we will start discussing the 9th verse, 9, 10, 11, 12. 4 verses we should take anywhere between maximum maybe 6 to 8 weeks to complete. Maximum. That's all. We have taken 70, almost like this is the 78th week, I guess. This is week number 78. Sorry, last week was 78. This is 79th week. We have taken 79 weeks to complete 8 verses, which means almost 10 sessions, 20 hours for each verse we have taken. So, but remaining 4 verses, we will hardly take, 2 sessions maximum to complete each. And someone is eager to know what is the next book in the Tuesday session. I have a book in mind. I will reveal it to you very soon. Once I'm convinced that this is the book we should discuss, I will reveal it very soon. Of course, I will take your opinion also on that. But this Tuesday group has been the longest group, because if I remember right, Tuesday Manasiksha was the first online course that I started. So which was 2 years back, almost 2 years back. And this group has consistently been coming for such a long time. So in this Tuesday session, I want to start a very, very important book after we complete Manasiksha. So please stay tuned, and you can freeze Tuesday for you. If you have already frozen Tuesday for the Manasiksha discussion. You don't have to, you can keep it frozen, because after Manasiksha, we are going to start a very, very important book. And it's going to be a very interesting book also. So please stay tuned. Anyway, so it is 8:57 now, and some as for please narrate some more pastimes, deity pastimes. It is so nice to hear. I will narrate one short pastime and then we will wind up for the day. So there is a temple in South India near Kanyakumari, and the place is called as Tirukkurungudi. So in Tirukkurungudi, once uh, uh, generally the uh, the devotee is called as Nambi, and the deity or the Lord is called Piran, or you know, like such kind of words. So he's the Lord, and the servant is called as Nambi. But in this particular temple, the Lord is called as Vaishnava Nambi, Sri Vaishnava Nambi. Okay. So now, once, so how he got this name? Once, Srila Ramanujacharya, he went to this particular temple along with many of his disciples. And one particular day, when Ramanujacharya was alone taking darshan of the deity secretly asked him, "Yeah, I spoke Bhagavad Gita, and I said, Sarvan Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja, Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Mokshayishyami Ma Shucha." So I spoke all these things. I spoke about surrender, prapatti, but very few people surrendered. But you have spoken, and so many people are surrendering. So what is the secret? Can you tell me? So the Lord asks Ramanujacharya. So Ramanujacharya tells the Lord, is this the etiquette? If you want to learn from me, you are sitting and I am standing. When I come here as a devotee to supplicate myself in front of you, you can sit and hear my prayers. But if you want to accomplish something through me, if you are going to ask me something for a help or something, how can you sit and I stand? How can you sit above me and I am below you? So you become my disciple, then I will tell you the secret. So the Lord agrees, and he becomes the disciple of Ramanujacharya. So from that day onwards, he is called as Sri Vaishnava Nambi. And then that asan in which the Lord came and sat below Ramanujacharya to hear from him, that asan is still there in the Tirukkurungudi temple. You can go and see that. Okay, so it's time now. Thank you all very much. It was very nice discussing all these things with you. So we still have hopefully about 6 to 8 weeks to complete Manasiksha, and the whole lifetime ahead to try applying some of these principles. But definitely to discuss is a very good starting point to apply. So when we discuss and hear and speak, it is a good starting point to start applying. So whatever little we can, Yeah, we can apply. We will try to apply. Thank you very much, and hoping to have your association for the remaining few weeks also. And then after that, we will again start a very wonderful book, which will run for another 2 years, 2, 3 years for sure. It's a, but it will be a very interesting book. So please stay tuned. Hmm. Okay, thank you very much for your patient listening. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami Pad ki jai, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai, वर्तमान आचार्य वृंद की जय, श्री मन शिक्षा की जय. हरे कृष्णा. Thank you very much.